Allie Houseman, and I am a licensed professional counselor. I have a private practice in the state of Michigan, and I'd love to tell my story about. There's so much more to mental health. It's such a buzzword these days.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about mental health, which is awesome, but I like to kind of talk about, I guess, more of the real side of it and
Yeah.
how people can really relate it to their lives. Because there's a big thing too, where now a lot of people are comfortable sharing their story,
Yeah.
but there's still a lot of people who aren't comfortable sharing their story.
Mhm.
And I always say, like, your mental health journey is yours. You can either
It
shout it
is.
from the rooftops, you can keep it quiet. No one needs to know your diagnosis. It's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, I've basically dedicated my career to helping people really get to a point in their life where they're enjoying it.
Yeah.
One of my famous quotes that I tell almost every single client, because a lot of people come to therapy and they think, make me happy. What can you do to like make
No.
my life happy all the time? And I always say,
No.
unless you are a robot or on some really, really good drugs, you are not ever going to be walking around happy
No.
all the time. And that's what I think one of the biggest myths is. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know about you, but I don't know a single person that's like happy all the time. Again, unless they're
No. Gosh.
smoking something really good, maybe. But yeah, and that's the hard thing. And that's kind of more when I say I want to break the stigmas about mental health, more just making people realize that kind of the price we have to pay for being humans on this
Yeah.
planet is we are going to be sad, we're going to be hurt, we're going to be really
Yeah.
happy, we're going to have great days, we're going to have bad days. But really, it's about kind of tolerating some
Just
of those
everything.
emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and getting
Yeah.
to like a middle ground.
Yeah. No, I mean, every bit of the from start to end there resonates as so much. It's just I think you're right. We have such a almost a stigma around the stigma now. We've kind of circled back, and I guess the way I always look at it is that you've got all these great, phrases and organizations and, pretty pictures and shirts. And it's like, okay, the next step is, and it's
Yes.
either, we're not sure what that next step is, or we forgot that there's work involved with that. And a lot of that work is scary and tough and dark and not just, like you said, I mean, not just happy 24/7.
Yeah, because
That's
that's not
not the goal. That's not the goal. It's,
no, it's not the goal. It's not attainable. Again, if your goal, whether you're going to therapy or to the gym or dieting, like if your goal is to be happy every day for the rest of your life, I mean, that's great. But then what happens when, like,
it
again,
doesn't.
you lose someone, your
Yeah.
kid gets hurt or sick? Like, you can't, I
Yeah.
don't know. I also don't believe too in like just force a smile and try to find the happiness and
No.
everything. Sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just hate your life, hate the world, be mad.
Yeah.
Me too. Like,
And be okay with that, right?
yeah.
Don't
Hmm.
sit with it. Don't, make it your best friend.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's part of life too, right? And then I think the people, like you said, that don't realize that that's part of the reality, when those moments do and will arise, it's more of a freight train than they were ready for. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Because if you're preparing for an easy life, a happy life, look, I want that for everyone. That's great. I want happiness. I want good things. I want beauty. But again,
Yeah.
part of the price that we have to pay for being human beings is like life is messy. Life is not always beautiful. Life is not always smiling and happy. And
No.
I wish it was. I just don't think that's not how life is. It's more you got to live in that middle ground,
Yeah.
and that's how I kind of choose to live my life. Is like in between, like so happy I'm not thinking about anything else, and also like so depressed you can't get out of bed. I think anything in life trying to
Where's
find
that?
that middle ground where you're at least like stable and baseline, I think that can be a really good goal too.
Yeah. So you mentioned the story. That's obviously a buzzword for me, and I think that's another one that goes hand in hand, as you said, with your mental health journey. But to me, the way I always see it, as far as the power of telling your story, it's like you have to say everything. And somewhere we've had this notion that, like, in order to fully grasp what the benefits of or telling your story, you have to say everything about your story. And I'm of the belief that you have to say it at least to yourself and be authentic,
Yeah.
but you don't have to say everything out loud. There's truly a benefit in saying it, but not every part of it needs to be heard. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what you choose to share. And again, there's some people, I mean, look at our society these days. People kind of use social media as a diary. We know
Yeah.
what people eat for breakfast. We know when they fight with their husband. We know when their kids are sick. Like, I think that's great if that's their journey. But again, there's a lot of people that don't
Yeah.
want to share certain things, whether it's something benign, again, like what you had for breakfast, or whether it's like pretty serious childhood trauma, like
Yeah.
you don't have to share that stuff. Again, if
No.
you're admitting it to yourself, if you're kind of coming to terms with that with yourself, maybe it's through therapy, maybe it's with a friend, who knows how, if you're kind of working through your own stuff, that's awesome. However you do it, I think you don't owe anyone an explanation outside of
No.
yourself. So yeah, and that's what I say too. Like, yes, share your mental health journey or not. That's okay too.
Yeah.
Uh, but also there is a lot of power in talking about it. And I think that's where people get in trouble is that when you don't kind of share how you're really feeling. I mean,
Yeah.
look at all the celebrities that look like they have perfect lives and then,
All of a
they,
sudden, right.
yes, suicide. You're like, how did this happen? You looked so happy. And I also want people to be comfortable sharing that. And I
Yeah.
think that's a problem too, is because again, our society is so busy. Like I
Yeah.
barely have time to even like text my sister, my mom, like people that I really care about.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And that's why I love therapy too, because life is busy, people are busy, and therapy is like the 1 hour a week that someone's genuinely listening to you. I mean,
Yeah.
when else in your life are you ever, maybe a wife is like half listening to you, or your friend is like, yeah. But then what happened to me, they're like only listening to you to share what's going on in their life and have you
Yeah.
help them. So that's why I think therapy is so powerful, is because again, it's the only time that a
Makes
lot
people
of us,
stop.
someone's, yeah, like looking at you and talking and really
Yeah.
listening and not sharing any of their own stuff. So
Yeah.
that's why I love it too.
So then how did you get to that spot in your own life that that's something that, you not only chose to do and then also see as something important? How did your life lead you to that
Yeah.
path?
Yeah, sure. So, I think growing up as a kid, I was always very shy, didn't have a lot of friends, had a lot of anxiety growing up, some childhood stuff myself. And I, from a young age, just realized I didn't even know what therapy was. I didn't go to therapy until I was like 16. But when I started going there, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a great thing, because again, it's not, I don't need my mom's permission to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
I don't need to make my mom happy in therapy. I don't need to like look perfect or be perfect in therapy. You come as you are. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is amazing. And if I can kind of return this favor to someone, that's like the best thing in the world. And honestly, I don't feel like it's a job. It's something that I
Yeah.
genuinely love. And it's a privilege to be able to do it.
That's right. I mean, like the way, I mean, I'm sure, we've heard it 1,000 times, right? How important therapy is, but that's just a unique way of putting it.
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that it's truly, I mean, we talk about the fact that it's talk therapy,
Yeah.
right? But I don't think I've ever heard anybody actually portray it as that it is just a moment to just
Mhm.
be in front of somebody that really truly doesn't care about anything else other than, well, shouldn't care about anything else other than finding a better way to manage what's going on in your life,
Yeah.
altogether. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause a lot of times people have a scene in their head, like, oh, if I go to therapy, I'm going to be doing worksheets, or I'm going to lay on a couch and talk about my dreams. And I'm like, most of the times, like I work from home. This is actually where I do my therapy sessions. Most of the times with my clients, we're just kind of talking about, what happened recently
Yeah.
and how we can learn from those mistakes and move forward and improve life. And that's really what it's all about. I just say, get better than you were yesterday. And how can we do that? If we can walk out of there doing that, then that's good. Sometimes we go deep. Like there's sessions where people are sobbing, really sick to their stomachs, talking about some childhood
Some dark
traumas or
stuff.
some
Yeah.
horrible stuff that's happened. Um, and then we find a way to kind of, like I said, share that story with yourself, with someone you
Yeah.
trust, and it makes it so much lighter. It's just everything's better when
Sure.
you can kind of talk it through, even if it's scary.
Do you think that the majority of us kind of miss the fact as much as we talk about how important, self-care is and taking care of your mental health, they've streamlined it into just not even, meeting with a doctor, just a quick televisits and you got something coming to your door, like all these things.
Mm.
Do you think we've kind of just missed altogether how to see those signs and how to, truly just talk to somebody and really understand that there might be something more than, what's on the surface? Maybe not something's huge and deep, but like there's, something to what they said or some reason why they're having a hard time with whatever it is in their day or their life.
Yeah, and look, like I'm a huge fan of medication when it's needed. Absolutely, that's great. Do that if you need it. But I do think a big piece of it is the talk therapy piece of it. And a lot of
Yeah.
people do kind of think, okay, I'm just going to medicate myself. Again, totally fine. Medication has its place, but finding someone to just to hear you, to listen to you. That's a human. We're losing, unfortunately, a lot of our humanness. I think with social
Yeah.
media, with we have everything at our fingertips, and the texting, the scrolling. We're spending 8 hours a day on our phone, but we're not really talking to someone.
Yeah.
We're not listening to someone. We're just viewing stuff. So I
Yeah.
think we are really getting into dangerous territory with that, where we're almost losing how to communicate.
Yeah.
And I kind of see the younger generation too. A lot of them don't know how to make eye contact. They can't
No.
talk to each other. They don't even look up off their phones. If you go to the restaurant, how many people are
Oh
always on?
gosh.
We're losing that human
Yeah.
connection. And I feel like therapy is kind of like, all right, let's bring that back. You are
Yeah.
the human. Let's talk about this. Let me hold this space for you. And there's not really much other opportunities to hold that space anymore.
Yeah.
So
And we're almost okay with that,
yes.
that like you said, I mean, you see, younger adults like, around, and it's like we didn't know what else to do other than just like, okay, like that's at least
Mhm.
they're doing something, other than, destroying property. There's
Yes.
I'll give you examples of where my kids go to school down like two doors down. It's one of the, and I didn't even know that existed until then. It was one of those like gaming places where kids can go to do that rather than, I guess, be at home. And
Mm.
it's almost, you can just see it. It's almost like they just call that, I don't know, like daycare in a way. Like I don't know how that works. I don't know
Right.
this, the details of it, but I mean, I've seen kids that look maybe at best like 7, 8, and they're just like plugged in headphones and they're happy, but it's
Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
what do we, I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad option. It's certainly not an option I had as a kid. But then you look at your own kids and it's like, okay, well, they're getting an interaction. There's other kids around. They're obviously doing this, but like you said, I mean, that's where you're at. And so what do we lose? What do we gain from those kind of things? Even just you say that, like scrolling on your phone, what do we lose? What do we gain?
Mhm. Yeah, that's what's tough. And that's why I think as parents or for even for ourselves, finding that middle ground of like,
Yeah.
our technology is here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
No.
My kids use the iPads probably more than they should, but sometimes you just have to do that. But I think
Yeah.
finding that middle ground where it's like, okay, maybe they're on that during the day, but at night we read books, we talk about the day, even if it's like 5, 10 minutes of really good
Yeah.
quality time. Again, find that middle
The
ground. There's
balance.
a lot of guilt over that. But yeah, I think we can't lose our humanness. We have to remember how to
Yeah.
connect to people. I don't know what's going to happen, but we shall see. I don't even know like when my kids are older, like what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
I wonder like will people leave the house because you can have everything delivered now. Like it's just it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how that all
Yeah.
works out. So,
It's definitely, I mean, my wife and I were middle school teachers, long before we even thought about kids and even met. Every time, like, look at our kids, and ours are 3 and 15 months. And it's like, you kind of sit back and go, okay, well, if we were still teaching, what would the conversations be? Because this is all you're having right now is just with these little guys, and they don't know much at all, but they do know that Google somehow has control of the lights and you can ask it stuff.
yes. Yeah.
And why does she not know that answer? And I'm like, oh
Yep.
God, don't ask that question now.
Yeah.
But you start like, fast forwarding and wondering, and then you get caught up real easy, right? Like, okay, well, I don't, no, 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 no. Like, I'm going to control everything and not have them in front of the phone. You don't get anything like this, like you can see that kind of snowballing one direction and then completely the opposite, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of my story. And I want other people to just really my goal again is just to have people figure out what your story is, and you don't have to know the next chapter, but I think at least being present in it
Yeah.
is great. That's my biggest thing that I try to get people like plan for the future. That's awesome. Let's talk about the past. Let's heal some of that. But we really all of us I think need to get better at being in the moment. And again,
Hmm.
like looking up from the phones, just looking around, like we're missing so much stuff. Like
Yeah.
I'll admit it, I'm really bad with screen time. And I'm like, my God, I'm like on Instagram scrolling and I'm missing something cute my daughter's doing. And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
never going to get this time back. And I don't want to look back on regret. So I'm like,
Yeah.
but again, even 5 minutes of putting your phone away and like looking at your kids, being really, like in
Yeah.
the moment with whatever it is, like it doesn't have to just starts a little bit. Do 5 minutes a day of being really present and
Yeah.
then get a little bit more increase.
Is it strange to have to like say that though, like out loud? I mean,
terrible.
I mean, again, like, as a parent, like, all of a sudden, like new things come into your,
Yeah.
your screen, and like seeing those kind of things to me, just,
Mhm.
it almost makes you like chuckle and just go, why are we having a post where there's two different images of guy with phone and guy without his phone interacting with the kid? How did you, is it strange to have to feel like you have to say that now?
Yes. And again, like even for myself too, like I really, really try to practice what I, with my clients, I'm like, let's be in the moment with your kids. But I also don't really ask my clients to do something that I wouldn't do,
Sure.
like I think like, don't be on your phone at all, throw your phone away, don't get a smartphone, like, just you have to do what works for you. But really, like, I feel I just want everyone to kind of live a life they're proud of and look back and just yeah, know that they did what they wanted to do and they feel good about their lives. And that's kind of my ultimate goal to help people with in therapy too.
And like I said, I mean, it's wildly unique, and because I think it's like I said, I mean, we kind of missed the fact that there's another step now. You can be aware of everything and anything, but the next step is the hard work.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people are afraid to do that,
Yeah.
or didn't realize that, like, that's kind of part of it. Like you said, I mean, you can't have, medication is great, but you can't have like that be the fix, or tossing away your phone. Like, that's a great idea, but it's not going to fix that there is a human side of it.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that somebody else sees that too, right? And wants to make that message happen. So when you get up and talk about things like that, whether that's TV or a stage, or what have you, do you feel any like that resistance, or do you feel like this, like the look in people's eyes is like, that's the puzzle piece that was missing? She nailed it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that because, again, our society does not reward relaxing, resting, being in the moment. Our society rewards people who are way too busy, who are doing
Yeah,
100 things. Like, that's great, like keep going, sacrifice all of your free time, like they love that. They love multitasking. And I
yeah,
think most people, you get caught up in that and you're like, wow, I'm really, time flies. And, I think the older you get to, the more you realize how fast time goes and how
yeah,
precious things are, like health, family, loved ones, friends, children. And it just teaches us like, wow, our time here is limited. Like we are going to die. At the end of the
yeah.
day, we're all going to die. And like, how do we want to live our lives before that happens? And really making sure we're doing that and not pretending we're going to live forever.
And I think I read somewhere that you mentioned that, like, that's part of your conversation
Yep.
is that conversation surrounding death. And
Yeah.
there's another part that people either do like to talk about, not like to talk about, like,
Yeah.
are okay and comfortable realizing it, or just not.
Right.
So is that something, part of your message as well, is finding that middle ground for that, or
Yeah.
is that
I
a
think
whole separate conversation for?
And but again, I don't want someone to look back at the end of their lives and be like, oh my gosh, like I really wish I would have done that. Because then by that point, it's too late. I
Yeah,
don't want anyone to wait till it's too late. And again, that doesn't mean overhauling your whole life. You don't need to train for a marathon tomorrow. Like that's fine. Like little stuff. Again, maybe
yeah,
it's reaching out to someone you've lost touch with, or treating your body better, working out, eating better, spending more quality time with your kids. Whatever that is for you, that's going to make your life fulfilled and worthwhile,
yeah,
start doing it now. Don't put this stuff off and try to find a way to get there.
yeah. So do you find it challenging then, as a therapist, to hold that message, and be, that aware of the things that we should be hearing, and then hear, what people's lives are going through, like, day to day?
Yeah.
Do you find it hard to balance those two for yourself, and not walk away going home going, wow, like,
Mhm.
some people have it really tough,
Sure. Yeah, and I've always been really good at kind of compartmentalizing. When I'm in my
Sure.
sessions, I'm there, I have my therapist hat on, and I'm really present. I'm holding the space for people. And then when that session's over, it's like, okay, I kind of take the hat off and I'm like, all right, I'm mom again. Like I go back to being me. And I think you kind of have to do that, or else
Yeah,
I'm a pretty sensitive person, and it makes me grateful. Like it makes me take count of like, okay, my life is really good. But yeah, I really like once those sessions are done, I give myself a little bit of time to process, and then I kind of just I go back into
you
me.
walk away. Yeah,
Yeah, don't I
yeah,
try not to take that stuff with me because it can really affect me. But
yeah.
I'm good at that. So
Is that something you had to, like, learn to do, or do you think you, like, from day one, kind of had a good sense of, like, okay, if I don't figure this out now,
Mhm.
my days are going to be, my personal days are going to be, upside down as well.
Right. Yeah, and they're pretty good with our training too of letting us know that try not to
Sure.
take stuff with you. And we do a lot of, even our own therapy as therapists, kind of bringing that up in supervision or whatever.
Yeah.
Some good ways to kind of process that for ourselves too. But yeah, I don't think you can really be in this field if you really,
No.
really, not that I don't take everything to heart, but I don't think you can't take it home. You can take it to heart, but you just can't take it home with you.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm, just simply, I'm sure, like, like a nurse, they talk about, compassion fatigue,
Yep.
I'm sure that's just as easily happening as anywhere else, right? And something like that, and I feel like probably 10 times over
Yeah.
with what you do, because you are getting, the most challenging part. I mean, I mean, I don't understand it on your level, but there's been some conversations that I have that I'm just like, whew,
Mhm.
like
Oh,
this
yeah.
is what I signed up for, but it's not what I signed up for,
Yes.
and you have to really just go, okay, and click the button when you're done, and
Yeah.
you
That's
have to. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, almost like clicking, like, the end, the leave
yeah,
button. Again, like, I still think I have good thoughts towards the clients, but yeah, that
it's
session,
hard.
the telehealth's done, and then I kinda go back to being me, so
Yeah.
that's
I mean, I
important.
know as teachers that was, and it took me. I mean, we taught for each of us at least 8 to 10 years, and it took several years of figuring out that as much as it is a 24/7 job in some way, shape, or form, it doesn't have to be something that you definitely walk away from. So I eventually got to the point where before you shut the laptop and go home, it's like, okay, is everything done? Because as soon as this is over,
Yep.
we're not thinking about this at all. Like tomorrow's another day, to do it. And that's, a very simple level compared to, hearing somebody's, deeper, level of their life, day in and day out. So as far as your story goes, is there something, if you had to extrapolate, one piece of it that everybody from your story should be able to feel and connect with the most, what would you say that would be?
I always use this quote with the clients and kind of, between now and the day that you're going to die, how do you want your life to be? And really, really think about that. That's
Yeah,
going to be different for everyone. And what are you going to do? What are you willing to do? More than
yeah,
not, what do you want to do? What are you willing to do to make that happen? Because we can sit here and dream and fantasize all day, but what are
yeah,
you willing to do to make that happen? And then start doing it. I think I remind people kind of it's more a bit of our own mortality. Like we are
yeah,
going to die and we are very limited and we have to really, you know, make the most of our time here. Again,
yeah,
in the middle ground, not doing everything all day, every day, trying to make life perfect and like, oh God, if I
yeah,
die, what am I gonna do? No. But like making sure that we're making the most of our time here.
yeah.
And I think mental health is a big part of that and a lot of barriers and a lot of really good things too that can come through from that.
Well, Kelly, thank you for taking the time to share part of your
Thanks
story with
for
us.
having me. It was so wonderful chatting.
Absolutely.